Hey guys, a little bit of a, I don't know, witch fest, I suppose one could say. Um, but it's just a heads up that this happens. And if it happens to my clients, you know, in my practice, I think it probably happens to pro se people all the time, except they might not know exactly what's happening because they don't follow up in the way that I just did. So in this case, I have a client, a young client, who needed assistance through high school and was provided that by a very well-known large nursing home health care organization, company, if you will. And there was a nurse who literally accompanied this person, this young person, through all the years of high school, to classes, for safety reasons and walking, but also helped facilitate organizational skills, getting work done, not getting overwhelmed, and all that to have the most successful educational experience and walk away with the most of it after said and done. Now, it had been my understanding that that company had also provided a nurse. In fact, I thought it was the same nurse, according to the information I had, when there was a brief foray into an attempt at college, online college. It turned out it didn't work out, and a withdrawal entirely had to take place within a few weeks, but because it was just too much. But so a request for those records had gone out. And as you know, under HIPAA, there's a 30-day deadline for medical organizations to provide the medical records. And in this case, if you also know the kind of HIPAA request that I always suggest people use and that I give copies to for the use for my clients, it's the high-tech HIPAA form. So there is no need to print, copy, stamp, and mail anything. Everything can be done through fax or email or download. It saves everybody time and money and is very expeditious, right? So you can get the records quickly and get them where you need to go. In this case, we have a hearing. So I followed up. The 30 days hadn't passed. It was no problem. But I followed up because I wanted to make sure it was received, and I wanted to make sure what I was getting was what I expected. And I got the actual nurse on the phone, and she acknowledged that they have records, but they keep them in, she said like an outside storage, but it sounded like it was another room. So that makes me think that they don't use modern technology, despite being a modern medical company, to store these things. But that's okay. But it was interesting because I felt this incredible sense of defensiveness, and I'm super sweet on the phone. you know, you get more bees with honey is the way I look at it. And the person told me that there was, in fact, no assistance from anyone in this company for any kind of college time period in, the time period that I mentioned about that, because that would have been most helpful, actually. To me, just as a further explanation, the explanation of the assistance needed to do, what is somewhat of a normal thing young adults do. And it still wasn't enough accommodation to get through a semester with C's because it was going to be all F's. So that's why the importance of these records are not so much for medical in terms of diagnoses, it's for the observations and the assistance given. That worked quite well with an IEP in high school, frankly, did really well, but there was a ton of accommodation and assistance. And with college, that wasn't going to be enough, it turns out. But the person denied flat out that nobody in that company had ever assisted him. And she knew exactly who I was talking about. She indicated she was, there's no like faulty memory or anything, because high school was a couple years ago. So it's funny because I'm almost like, that's a little defensive. What's the defensiveness? If I'm mistaken about that the same company didn't do anything in college, okay, but I don't know why that would be defensive. And only because my understanding from the family is that that's who they use, because that's who they used in high school. So I don't know whether there was some sort of like, I don't know, under the table thing going on, or I wouldn't think so, because I don't know. But so then when it came down to, well, just how about the records for the high school? Because it would be nice to, there's I mean, it's pretty much confirmed in the records that there was assistance with the IEP in that way. It's in the IEP records. But since if I'm not going to be getting the college few weeks of explanation, that would be helpful for an adult SSI person to show that they are still needing SSI or still disabled as an adult. Then I would still want to be thorough and get the details of the high school. And the defense was, oh, I'll have to go out and get it myself. And I'm like, so I was trying to be sympathetic, like, oh, wow, they're making the nurses go copy records now, like, and search in storage boxes. Like, yeah, you got enough to do. I mean, I say this because I have nurses in my family, my mom, my sister, like, I get it. But the rebuff was like huge. Like, how dare you ask for records because me, the nurse, has to go get them, which that's not my problem. That's your employer's problem. I mean, I think it's a shame they don't have records people. I think that's horrendous. It's just ridiculous, particularly when a nurse is not going to even be an expert in the field of HIPAA and copying records. Without trying to be funny about it, there are certain rules that have to be followed, like she didn't seem aware at all that there's a 30-day time limit under federal HIPAA law. And if you don't do it, it's a HIPAA violation. Now, if you were talking about privacy and invading a person's privacy, she'd probably be all over that because that's what's drilled in their head. But they're not familiar, apparently, with the whole requirements that they have under HIPAA. Just the don't show anybody what's going on business. So, when it comes down to it, I just felt like there was this complete disregard of the HIPAA obligation to provide the records. So I just mentioned the 30 days and I said, oh God, I hope your company can get on this faster because there's a 30-day time limit. I go, you're not over the time limit yet, and the response I get was, well, then you will have them within 30 days. And it was like surprisingly rude. I'm like, here we are supporting the same exact person. We're both on the same side. I didn't understand it. It was just like, why do they have to be that way? We're all on the same side here, and me telling you that there's a 30-day time limit if you were unaware, despite being now and apparently a HIPAA records producing capacity instead of, solely being a nurse, you'd think you'd be a little thankful that someone told you where your deadline is under federal law so you don't have a HIPAA violation, which they're very concerned about HIPAA violations when it comes to privacy invasion. That's what they are. That's all people seem to know about. And I'm like, well, there's this other little rule you have to follow, like patient access. Anyway, so I'm a little witching about that right now because it just always floors me when you get I don't even know what the word is, like a healthcare provider who is completely clearly not giving a hoot about the best interest of their patients. Maybe because now they're not getting paid by that patient. I don't know. If that patient was a current patient, would it be different? What do you think? All right. Vent over. But when you don't get medical records and you've sent a HIPAA request, do know that there is that 30-day time limit. There are some exceptions if there's extraordinary circumstances and they can get an additional X amount of days, but they have to let you know about it. So if they don't, they can't exactly avail themselves of it without at least communicating. And to be honest with you, when I think I've said this elsewhere, when we send out HIPAA requests, or we facilitate clients sending out their HIPAA requests, might be the better way to put it. I never jump on somebody after 30 days, not even close. I mean, we order records or facilitate ordering records months in advance. We don't rely on anyone actually doing their job properly because many of these places do not. So if someone's going to take 40 days or 50 days, I will get them before I send out my next little reminder, like, you're over the deadline. Because usually I'll go 2 months, because I'm not trying to be a hard guy on it. I'm not trying to beat them up over every little day, because I'm well prepared and I have these things going out well in advance. But when they start to get a little witchy, they should really be careful. I mean, last thing you want is to tick someone off enough with your violations that they file a complaint with the OCR. And that is something that I would definitely not have a problem doing if my client so desired. It's super easy to do. If anybody ever wants to do it, let me know. I probably have a video on that. If not, I could certainly do one. They take all of 5 minutes, so it's really easy to do if you've been shafted in that way. All right, time to go. See you and have a great day, guys. Bye.